The two Filipino members of a television crew released by Abu Sayyaf rebels over the weekend are now under police custody. A magnitude 4.5 earthquake hits Baguio City. President Aquino appoints Eduardo Del Rosario as the acting administrator of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. And the Philippine stock market surpasses the 6,400 mark as it closes at a new all-time high of 6,435. I'm Nancy Irlanda. This is Solar Nightly News. Good evening. Two Filipino television crew members kidnapped by the Abu Sayyaf in Sulu nearly 8 months ago are finally released. However, Jordanian television reporter Baker Atiani remains a hostage. Miguel Ortilia has details.
After 8 months of being held captive by the Abu Sayyaf bandit group, Ramelito Vela and Rolando Letriro were released over the weekend. Both victims drastically lost weight. Vela still couldn't walk as his foot had been infected for several months now. He recounted how the Abu Sayyaf bandits put him on a pony as they traversed the mountains of Sulu. Despite the ordeal, the two said their captors treated them well. They were also unaware if any ransom was paid in exchange for their release.
Ang trato sa amin dun sir parang anak. Mahusay ang alaga sa amin, ni kurot, hindi kami sinaktan. Yung kung anong kinakain nila, kakainin namin. Hindi, wala kaming alam doon sa pera na tinanong mo, wala kaming alam na perang negosasyon. Yung paglaya namin, wala kaming alam na kami uuwi.
Authorities say information from Vela and Letrero are crucial in finding the whereabouts of Jordanian journalist Baker Atiani.
Magiging mahalaga yung salaysay ni Ramil at saka ni Buboy dahil baka mabigyan ng leads ang ating pulis, ang ating mga operatives kung saan pa sila lalong maghahanap.
The problem is, the two were separated from Atiani 5 days after they were captured by the Abu Sayyaf on June 12 last year. They are now clueless as to where Atiani is.
Iniwalay na kami. Hanggang ngayon hindi na kami nagkita.
PNP Anti-Kidnapping Group Head Senior Superintendent Renato Gumban said the last time Atiani was able to talk to his family was back in December of last year. In January, his abductors contacted Atiani's company Al Arabiya TV but did not allow the journalist to speak to them.
Kaya alam natin na buhay siya at alam natin na diyan rin siya sa Sulu area.
So far, the ransom demand of $3 million or over 120 million pesos for Atiani has not changed. The Special Task Force based in Zamboanga is still in charge of negotiations, but the Moro National Liberation Front initiated its own negotiations to free Atiani and other foreign nationals held captive. But something turned sour over the weekend, leaving 13 Abu Sayyaf and 8 MNLF members dead. The AFP today confirmed that 4 of the MNLF fatalities were beheaded. This raises questions if any of the Abu Sayyaf captives were injured as well. Letrero and Vela told authorities that during encounters, they were forced to wear military fatigues, making it hard for them to be distinguished as hostages.
May puto kami, time na nakasuot kami gano'n. Kumbaga kahit mo ako kakilala, hindi mo ako makikilala pag nakasuot ako.
Miguel Ortilia, Solar News.
Malacanang says the conflict between members of the Moro National Liberation Front and the Abu Sayyaf will not spread to nearby villages. Presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacerda says there is no need to worry as the fighting took place in an isolated area in the jungles of Sulu. Lacerda adds Social Welfare Secretary Dinky Soliman is now in Mindanao to ensure the safety of civilians and to oversee the evacuation of residents living near that area. Police say the clash between the two rebel groups broke out on Sunday after a squabble over the custody of hostages. The armed forces of the Philippines deployed troops to Sulu to contain the clash between rebels of the Moro National Liberation Front and the Abu Sayyaf. The AFP says the troops, with the help of the Philippine National Police, successfully prevented a spillover of the conflict. The AFP adds the situation is now under control. 5 workers were killed after the scaffolding they were standing on collapsed in a power plant in Pililla, Rizal. The victims are reportedly fixing the smokestack of Malaya Power Corporation's power plant when the scaffolding broke down. Authorities have yet to retrieve the remains of the victims. A magnitude 4.5 earthquake shook Baguio City this afternoon. Intensity 5 was felt in Baguio City, intensity 3 in La Trinidad, and intensity 2 in Agoo and San Fernando in La Union and Dagupan City in Pangasinan. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology does not expect any aftershocks to occur. So far, no damage nor injuries have been reported. We now have on the phone Henry Peñarrubia, who is a science research specialist at the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology. Good evening, Mr. Peñarrubia, and welcome to Solar Nightly News.
Oh, yes. Good evening. Good evening also.
All right. What do we know so far about this earthquake that has not been reported out yet?
Okay. Well, this earthquake that happened this afternoon at 3:16, until this time, there was no report of any damage. And, of course, with this kind of earthquake, with this strength, we don't expect any damage either. So this is just a regular earthquake that, of course, people were shook, especially in Baguio City and in Trinidad, Benguet. But this strength of earthquake cannot damage well-built structures and even infrastructure.
Context, sir, of course, when you hear reports of an earthquake in Baguio, thoughts go to 1990. Just for comparison, what was the intensity of the earthquake that hit Baguio in 1990?
Well, the Baguio earthquake of 1990, July 16, was felt at intensity 8, so it's a very destructive earthquake. Well, this one is only intensity 5. So obviously, all people in this area would have felt the earthquake, but there's no damage that's expected from this kind of strength of earthquake.
All right. Again, just to put things in perspective, when there's an earthquake near the sea, there's a certain set of questions to be asked, like where the epicenter was and how that should affect the shorelines. But when earthquakes happen in a mountainous area, what things should we be thinking of?
Well, if the earthquake is strong enough, it could generate landslides or rock slides. So we advise people, if there would be strong earthquake felt in their area, they must keep away from slopes or along high elevated areas or areas that could experience rock falls or landslides, similar to this.
All right. Curiously, the PHIVOLCS does not expect any aftershocks. Is that the standard thing to expect? Isn't there usually an expectation of aftershocks after each earthquake? Well,
this earthquake is not large enough to generate aftershocks. We don't, well, based on our records, if the value is only about 4.5, it does not usually generate aftershocks.
The threshold in terms of intensity in order for us to expect that there should be aftershocks?
If we feel an intensity of about 6 to 7, it's obvious that there will be aftershocks.
Okay,
but
so
if it's only intensity 5 or lower, then probably there would be no aftershocks.
Minimum then is 5. And then lastly, is there a difference between magnitude and intensity measures?
Okay, the magnitude is a measurement of the strength of the earthquake as measured by the instrument. Okay, but the intensity is the actual observation that people can see and even that we can observe from structures around the area.
So the more practical measure would be to look at intensity in that sense?
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
All right, Mr. Peñarrubia of the PHIVOLCS, many thanks for talking to us this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Where President Aquino appoints Eduardo Del Rosario as acting head of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council and the Office of Civil Defense. The president assigned Del Rosario to his post on Friday when former disaster czar Benito Ramos's resignation finally became effective. However, Del Rosario had already been briefed by the former NDRRMC head in mid-January in what they described as an orientation for the position. Meanwhile, the president has also assigned Lieutenant General Alan Luga as the new Vice Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Luga replaces Lieutenant General Noel Cobalies, who has been named Commanding General of the Philippine Army. Well, the salvage crane that will be used to remove the USS Guardian from the Tubataha Reef has arrived at the protected site, although the extraction of the U.S. vessel may still be delayed. Paula Palma explains.
The USS Guardian may not be removed from the Tubataha Reef just as yet. The Coast Guard says the ship that will extract the USS Guardian may not be allowed to anchor in the reef.
Kasi doon sa plano ng SMIT Borneo, they're supposed to anchor. And of course, we have to clear these procedures sa Tubataha Management Foundation if they will allow yung vessels to anchor. Definitely, pag nag-anchor yung vessel, it will create or it will add more damage to the reef.
Even if it doesn't anchor, there is still a chance that it may cause some damage.
Ngayon, di ba, medyo yung weather condition pabago-bago. So definitely, pag malakas yung current at hindi naka-anchor yung vessel, then galaw ng galaw yan, madidrift, pupunta siya, baka madrift papunta dun sa reef.
The best way to remove the vessel is to cut it into segments and lift it. The plan is to divide the entire ship into 12 segments from top to bottom. The crane ship will remove the mast of the ship. Next to go is the smokestack, the ship's bridge, and the engine. The ship's deck will be divided into 3. Last to go is the ship's hull, which will be divided into 5 parts and then lifted. The crane ship Smith Borneo can carry up to 5,000 tons of debris. They also eye to add another crane ship that can accommodate up to 8,000 tons. A last meeting is set on Tuesday. If the plan is approved, work may begin on Wednesday or Thursday. Paula Palma, Solar News.
The United States government is expected to pay a fine for damages caused by the USS Guardian to 4,000 square meters of the Tubataha Reef instead of the initial estimate of 1,000 square meters. David Santos filed this report.
The U.S. government, through its embassy in Manila on Sunday, reiterated its regret over the Tubataha Reef incident. Unlike its previous statement, the U.S. government is now offering an initial settlement package to the Philippines. First, the U.S. said it will provide what is described as appropriate compensation for the damages, though no specific amount was mentioned. Then it would fund different projects accordingly to ensure Tubataha's recovery. One of them is to hold consultations with local reef experts by mid-February and granting 4 million pesos to a Philippine university initiating coral restoration research. The Tubataha Protected Area Management Board has yet to be informed of the proposal.
So it would be really, really important for us to feel that that we have actually been compensated if the compensation package or if the settlement is actually what we need, not what they want to give us.
A team of American interdisciplinary scientific experts will also be sent to the Philippines, which will review rehabilitation options based on the assessment made by Filipino marine experts on damages to the marine park. The U.S. also plans to fund a site survey that should improve the existing ranger station in Tubataha by installing radars and communication equipment to assist park rangers and the Philippine Coast Guard in avoiding future collisions and keep a watch on poachers.
Of course, it's a welcome move that they're now offering compensation, but we do not wish to forget that there was a law that was violated, and we stand by. We hope that they will also respect the law and settle it in the manner in which it is stipulated in the law.
Based on latest reports, the extent of damage in the Tubataha Reef since the USS Guardian ran aground in the protected area last January 17 has reached 4,000 square meters. More than the proposed indemnification, a local cost-oriented group wants the U.S. government to give a convincing explanation why the incident happened in the first place.
Program na nawala sila. So, paano sila napunta dyan? Kami po, ilang tribo, wala kami nag-expose sila ng ating mga natural resources. So, sana sabihin nila yun sa publiko. No? Paano napunta sila dyan? Hindi kasi kapag-paniwala na naligaw sila.
The U.S. Navy said it has yet to conclude its investigation. The U.S. government, short of reminding the Filipino public, pointed out that even before the Tubataha incident, Washington, D.C. has supported bilateral agreements in preserving local marine ecosystems. Its donor agency, the USAID, has poured in close to 2 billion pesos in the past decade to support biodiversity conservation programs in the Philippines, including several in Tubataha. David Santos, Solar News.
The Commission on Elections uncovered technical problems in the precinct count optical scan or PCOS machines in mock elections on Saturday. Now, Malacanang wants the poll body to fix the glitches ahead of the May midterm elections. AC Nichols has that story.
Malacanang expects COMELEC to fix all the technical glitches encountered during last Saturday's nationwide mock elections. And the poll body has ample time to do so, with more than 3 months before the midterm polls.
They have committed that they will be able to solve the glitches, and we expect them to do so. Certainly we hope that by election time that these glitches will be resolved, and there will be no glitches that would question the integrity of the elections.
Over the weekend, COMELEC conducted mock polls in 10 areas across the country. In P. Bernardo High School in Bagong Lipunan in Crame, Quezon City, the machines refused to accept thermal papers due to their thickness. While at the UP Integrated School, some PCOS machines were unable to read ballots. There were also glitches in data transmission due to poor network signals.
There is more than enough time. More than enough time. We're still very early. February pa lang tayo ngayon. We will have the final testing anyway 1 week before the elections. Nakaschedule na yan, May 6. That would be the final testing all over.
Lacerda says the president has given his marching orders to make the coming polls as orderly and credible as possible. He also brushed aside allegations that the poll body is not prepared for another automated elections.
But this is not the first time the COMELEC is going to oversee an automated elections. So this is something that the COMELEC has experience with, notwithstanding the presence of some new commissioners, but the bureaucracy is familiar already with automated elections.
AC Nichols, Solar News.
The National Telecommunications Commission is confident the transmission of results from precinct count optical scan machines will withstand signal jammers in the May elections. NTC Director Edgardo Cabarrios did say signal jammers may delay the transmission of results. Cabarrios also says that the NTC is closely monitoring the sale of jammers. The NTC prohibited the importation and sale of these devices following reports the entry of 5,000 jammers in the country in 2010 sent jitters to the Commission on Elections, as these may disrupt the transmission of election results. Commission on Elections Chairman Sixto Brillantes says there will be a slight delay in the printing of ballots for the May 2013 elections. Brillantes says the ballot files from the COMELEC warehouse in Cabuyao, Laguna are still being tested by COMELEC's IT personnel. The COMELEC chief says IT experts are making sure there will be no complications once these files are brought to the National Printing Office. Brillantes adds the printing of ballots should begin today. He says the delay is nothing to worry about, as the COMELEC and the NPO will still meet their April 25th deadline. The Commission on Elections accredits 3 citizens' arms: the National Movement for Free Elections, the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting, and the One Vote Movement. That's to ensure credible, orderly, and peaceful elections this year. In day 97 of Inform in 100, Kimberly Go zeroes in on the importance of a citizen's arm in an election.
The people's desire to actively take part in shaping national leadership dates back to the late 50s with the establishment of the Operations Registration Committee. there was rampant vote buying and violence at that time. The committee also helped women assert their right to vote. In the 60s and early 70s, the people behind the ORC formally organized into the Citizens' National Electoral Assembly to exercise the right of suffrage on a wider scale. In October 1983, CNEA and other groups from the church, the business sectors, and constitutionalists banded together to form the National Movement for Free Elections. It is to be the first election watchdog in the country and in Asia. The first ever election NAMFREL monitored was the 1984 Batasan Pambansa election. Its commitment to clean the elections was highlighted during the 1986 snap presidential election.
I am ready to call a snap election.
NAMFREL then was an accredited citizens' arm to conduct manual parallel counts. Over 5,000 volunteers offered their time, energy, and life to preserve the sanctity of the ballot. Ferdinand Marcos was declared winner. NAMFREL's count, however, showed that Cory Aquino was the rightful president.
We spelled the difference. No? We provided the proof, no, to the people na ito yung bilang namin. Hindi pa nga natatapos, ang nakita mo na yung laki na yung lamang. Ubusin mo pa yung natitira.
That walkout eventually led to the EDSA People Power Revolt that ousted Marcos and installed Aquino as the country's president.
Ako po si Cory Aquino.
The idea of creating the Parish Pastoral Council for Responsible Voting came out in an informal discussion between then Manila Archbishop Jaime Cardinal Sin, COMELEC Chair Heidi Yorak, and Ambassador Henrietta de Villa.
They were in a meeting in the Cardinal's house at the time, and it was a comment that Commissioner Heidi Yorak made. She said, if you count all the loose guns and loose firearms in the country, they would have more loose firearms than our legitimate army itself. So how will you defend for good elections? And then they were brainstorming and they said, you know, we can vote into government, godly people, people who will think of God, who will think of country.
Its main thrust is voters' education. Media accounts indicate a clash between the PPCRV and NAMFREL due to the apparent duplicity of functions. In the end, NAMFREL withdrew its petition for accreditation. NAMFREL says the COMELEC has chosen to deny it access to some data, which they felt defeats the purpose of being a watchdog. PPCRV stood as COMELEC's official citizens' arm. But that may be water under the bridge. PPCRV and NAMFREL are about to work together in 2013.
As a citizens' arm, you monitor. And when you monitor and when you see something wrong, you have to communicate this as viably as you can, as widespread as you can, so that correct measures can be made.
COMELEC, on the other hand, says watchdogs are there to keep the agency on its toes.
The main goal of a watchdog is to keep COMELEC honest, they say. They have their groups who are, because they are presenting a united front, you know, under a banner of a coalition or a group of individuals, who are able to address the COMELEC and to demand certain concessions from the COMELEC.
For the 2013 midterm elections, the COMELEC has accredited 3 citizens' arms. The third group is One Vote, Our Hope movement, organized in February 23, 2009. One Vote has participated in the May 2010 national and local elections. With the presence of NAMFREL, PPCRV, and One Vote, the question now is, can these watchdogs guarantee clean elections?
Meron tayong inaasahan, may pag-asa tayo sa eleksyon na to, makikita natin na may pagkakaroon ng bago.
There are some areas na hindi nila napuntahan, meron din tayong mga tao doon. So what's important is more of the education.
The COMELEC says each citizen's arm has its own job.
Here we're talking about accredited citizens' arms. We have as many of them as there are separate tasks that need to be accomplished.
NAMFREL doesn't see it as a problem as long as COMELEC clearly defines each group's duties. De Villa, meantime, believes the more citizens' arm there is, the better. Both COMELEC and NAMFREL, however, still see the election to be tainted with violence.
When they started moving yung automated elections, into automated elections, you see a lot of people, no, because they were not familiar with the machine or the system in itself. A lot of them, being Filipinos, no, Magilas, no, try to look for ways and means how to beat the system.
So we think that this will be perhaps marked by a lot of vote buying and violence.
But despite this, all three agencies remain hopeful of achieving credible polls this year. Kimberly Go, Solar News.
Malacanang supports a Philippine National Police decision to set up daytime checkpoints to clamp down on crimes around the metro. Presidential spokesman Edwin Lascerda sees no problem with the PNP measure as it is a good way to protect citizens. Lascerda adds there will be no issues with the order as long as proper checkpoint procedures are observed. The Manila Police District has arrested a security guard suspected of shooting a 9-year-old boy in the leg. 38-year-old Adino Agaw, who works for the Bureau of Plant Industry, reportedly threatened and shot the victim who was picking fruits off a tree near his office compound. For his part, the victim said he fell from the wrong side of the tree and had no intentions of entering the compound. The victim's family is determined to file a case of frustrated murder against Agaw. The Chief Minister of Sabah in Malaysia admits he is related to Aman Futures Group founder Manuel Amalillo. The news website Malaysian Insider came out with a story that Sabah's Chief Minister Datuk Seri Musa Aman is a relative of Amalillo after reports that a high-ranking Malaysian official supposedly ordered a stop to Amalillo's repatriation from Kota Kinabalu. Musa says Amalillo is a distant relative, adding that he learned about their kinship only recently. The Chief Minister says that the Sabah state government had nothing to do with Amalillo's deportation or lack of it, pointing out that it is a matter between the Malaysian police and the International Criminal Police Organization, or Interpol. Amalillo left the Philippines for Sabah after news about his pyramiding scam broke out in November. Ombudsman Conchita Carpio Morales finds suspended Cebu Governor Gwendolyn Garcia and 5 other Cebu officials guilty of grave misconduct in connection with the irregular acquisition of the Balili estate in Naga, Cebu in 2008. Morales also declared Juan Bolo of the Sangguniang Panlalawigan of Cebu, Anthony Sususco, Roy Salubre, and Eulogio Pelaire of the Provincial Appraisal Committee, and Provincial Budget Officer Eme Gingoyon guilty of the charges. The purchase of the Balili estate was made possible through a memorandum of agreement signed by Garcia on behalf of the province of Cebu. The Manila Prosecutor's Office dismisses the criminal negligence case against Pampanga Representative Gloria Arroyo in relation to the Maguindanao massacre for lack of probable cause. The resolution states that the complainant, Marconi Abdulaziz Paiso, has no cause of action as she is neither a victim nor an heir of the victims of the massacre. In the complaint, human rights advocate Paiso stated that Arroyo's intolerance or ignorance over the Ampatuan clan's rule in ARMM fueled the tense political rivalry that led to the massacre. The prosecutors, however, say that the allegations against Arroyo are more of generalizations and conclusions that are not supported by evidence. The Department of Health says the reproductive health laws implementing rules and regulations will be released on March 18th. The law is expected to provide the public with universal access to reproductive health care services, methods, and supplies, including artificial family planning methods. Health Assistant Secretary Eric Dayag says the DOH will hold public consultations by the end of February to allow different sectors of society to scrutinize the law's IRR. RH law advocate Gabriela Representative Luz Ilagan hopes the IRR will prove that the law is not a population control measure. Beleaguered Agrarian Reform Secretary Virgilio de los Reyes still enjoys the full trust and confidence of President Aquino, despite an appeal made by Catholic bishops to revamp the Department of Agrarian Reform. Bishops are alarmed over what they call Secretary de los Reyes' dismal performance a year and a half before a law extending the government's agrarian reform program expires. Agrarian Reform Undersecretary Jose Grajeda earlier talked to us, and he explained why the Agrarian Reform Secretary deserves to stay in the cabinet. Let's listen in.
There is really nothing in the law which states that we cannot distribute lands beyond 2014. there is a section in RA 9700 or the Carper Law which states that DAR can continue acquisition and distribution of land holdings with pending cases or proceedings even beyond 2014. I think the bishops are not getting the full information, because when they say that the staff or the bureaucracy in DAR are not really supporting the secretary, perhaps what they hear is only the side of the leaders in the central office of the DAR Employees Association. But if you go to the field, you cannot really feel any unrest coming from the rank and file.
The National Telecommunications Commission admits it cannot guard against hackers of social networking websites such as Twitter and Facebook, adding the commission can only request to have certain websites blocked. Jelly Bilhera filed this report.
The specter of hackers digging personal information from websites sends jitter to some Filipino netizens, while fans of Twitter and Facebook are hardly fazed.
May tiwala naman ako sa security ng mga social network sites na katulad nun. I can post what I want because it's my personal life.
Some young netizens find it more prudent to keep private pictures and data away from prying eyes by not posting them at all.
Hindi ako masyado nagpo-post ng mga private pictures, mga private comment kasi yun nga dahil public siya. Pagka masakasakaling katulad ng mga personal mong, for example, yung identification mo, address mo, halimbawa, mahirap eh.
Ako na lang po mismo yung magsisecure dun sa account ko para wala pong makahack, tsaka wala pong makakuwang ibang tao ng information ko.
The National Telecommunications Commission says it cannot control the content of websites nor the people who hack it. NTC Director Edgardo Cabarrio says the commission can only ask internet service providers to block websites.
Well, kung mablock yung website, hindi na ma-access sa Pilipinas yung mga websites na yun. No?
The NTC has a regulatory supervision over ISPs and can order them to block certain websites but not social media sites unless directed by the government. For hacked government websites, Cabarrio says it is up to law enforcement agencies to investigate and to punish wrongdoers. Jelly Bilhera, Solar News.
And a look at the skies ahead. The Weather Bureau Pagasa says the easterlies will affect sections of the archipelago near the Pacific Ocean. Good weather will prevail over the country except for isolated rains or thunderstorms over the Cagayan Valley and the provinces of Aurora, Quezon, and Leyte, and the regions of Caraga and southern Mindanao. We've got a look now at the rest of temperatures here and around the region. The Philippine stock market main index breached the 6,400 mark as it closed at a new all-time high of 6,435 at today's trading. That is up 117 points or 1.86% from Friday's close. Intraday trading hit a high of 6,449. This is the 14th all-time high for this year and the 75th under the Aquino administration. Filipino Port Management Company International Container Terminal Services Incorporated, or ICTSI, triumphed in an international bidding war over a cargo terminal in Honduras. ICTSI won the international public bidding process for the design, financing, construction, maintenance, operation, and exploitation of the specialized container and general cargo terminal of Puerto Cortes in Honduras. The Filipino company was awarded a contract saying it had control over the port for a period of 30 years. Puerto Cortes is Honduras's main seaport and is considered one of the most important ports in Central America. A survey on financial quotient finds Filipino consumers put more money into insurance and retirement funds. Based on a Citibank online survey, 63% of Filipinos save for retirement. 80% invest in insurance. In addition, 90% of the respondents said they create a monthly budget, and 65% say they stick to that budget. The online survey included 3,500 participants from 7 countries, including Australia, India, Indonesia, Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan. An amateur video shows the aftermath of a Syrian government missile attack in Aleppo as violence in the war-torn country rages on. That and more in this World Update from Claire Sildran.
A new amateur video appeared to show the aftermath of a missile attack on a civilian building in Aleppo, Syria. Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said about 16 people were killed in the airstrike, including 10 children. Reports said the 22-month-old conflict in Syria, which began with peaceful street protests and evolved into an armed uprising against President Bashar al-Assad, had left at least 60,000 people dead. In the U.S., Leon Panetta, who as CIA director oversaw the operations that killed al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, said the job could have been done without resorting to controversial interrogation methods. The outgoing defense secretary did not elaborate how this might have been made, but said most of the intelligence used to find bin Laden were stitched together without resorting to enhanced interrogation or torture. Panetta was commenting on the 2012 film Zero Dark 30, which focused on the successful May 2, 2011 raid of the al-Qaeda leader's hideout in Pakistan. In Mexico, hundreds of people gathered for a religious service to remember dozens of victims who died after an explosion rocked state-owned oil giant Pemex headquarters. The death toll due from the incident already climbed to 36. Grieving Pemex employees joined relatives of their colleagues who were killed, keeping a united front in the face of tragedy. Claire Saldran, Solar News.
South Korea's president calls for preparations amid speculations that the North may hold another nuclear test. Claire Sildran is back with this Around Asia update.
In South Korea, President Lee Myung-bak called for preparation against North Korea's possible nuclear test as the joint U.S.-South Korea military drill begins. International speculation about when Pyongyang would launch another nuclear test increased after leader Kim Jong-un made an important concluding speech during the reclusive country's Central Military Commission meeting. President Lee ordered government agencies to be on alert for a possible test by the North when he visited the country's National Crisis Management Center. In China, the world's largest annual human migration was in full swing as hundreds of millions of Chinese made their way home for the Chinese New Year. A record 3.41 million trips were expected over this year's Lunar New Year period. Many of China's 1.3 billion people work in big cities miles away from their hometowns. The week-long Spring Festival national holiday would be the only time of the year they could go home and see their families. And in Bangladesh, a fire gutted a slum area in Dhaka over the weekend, leaving over 500 people homeless. No casualties were reported. The cause of the fire remains unknown. Fire officials said it took firefighters about an hour to bring the flames under control. Claire Saldran, Solar News.
News now on the Super Bowl, the Phoenix Open, and the NBA from our Solar Sports Desk's Gino Rufino. Gino?
Thanks, Nancy. Ray Lewis ends his NFL career with another Super Bowl ring as the Lakers escape Detroit with a win. But before that, let's tee off with some golf news. Phil Mickelson held off a last-day charge by fellow American and playing partner Brandt Snedeker to end a week of scintillating golf with a 4-shot triumph at the Phoenix Open in Scottsdale, Arizona on Sunday. Mickelson birdied 3 of the last 6 holes to close with a 4-under par 67 at the TPC Scottsdale, completing a wire-to-wire victory with a record-tying 28-under total of 256 to clinch his 41st PGA Tour title. In Super Bowl 47, the Baltimore Ravens were dominating the game and found themselves ahead by 22 points. Then, the power went out early in the third quarter. The stall in the action seemed to be what the San Francisco 49ers needed as Colin Kaepernick and company came storming all the way back. It was only fitting that Ray Lewis and the Ravens defense were able to hold on as Baltimore beat San Francisco 34-31.
It hasn't sunk in yet. Crazy. Unbelievable. Tough to put into words because it just really hasn't sunk in yet. I don't even think it's sunk in that we're here, let alone won the thing. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Look, man. Look, we done said it all year, you know. And now I can finally speak about it. You know, that I can think about self a little bit now. What better way to go out? You know, and I think more importantly, it's my teammates the way I went out. The things that we've been through all year. Battle tested through this journey. The up and down roller coaster, the injuries, the passings of people, man, and we stayed together. And now I get to ride off in the sunset with my second ring.
Only 3 games in the NBA on Super Bowl Sunday, including the Lakers facing the Pistons in Motown. With Dwight Howard still out due to the shoulder injury, Pau Gasol did what Pau Gasol does, as he dominated early and finished with 23 points and 10 rebounds. With 0.4 seconds left in the half, Kobe Bryant inbounded the ball and threw a perfect alley-oop to Earl Clark for the slam as the Lakers took a 62-51 halftime lead. In the third quarter, the Lakers would pull away and find themselves ahead by 18 points. However, they have had problems closing out games, and this was no different. Will Bynum and Charlie Villanueva came off the bench to lead the Pistons as they tied the count at 9-1 all. With one final play, Andre Drummond had a chance to win it at the buzzer, but just missed a potential game winner right at the rim as the Lakers win 98-97. For more on the NBA, the Super Bowl, and a complete wrap of the sports today, tune into the Solar Sports Desk tonight at 10:30 p.m. In the meantime, log on to www.solarsportsdesk.ph for all the latest in the sports world. That's all for now. I'm Gino Rufino. Back to you, Nancy.
Thanks, Gino. Well, it took 3 sets of hands to examine the San Diego Zoo's baby panda cub, Xiao Li Wu. Now more than 5 months old, the panda is gaining weight at an expected rate and is very healthy, weighing in at nearly 19.5 pounds and measuring about 3 feet tall. Vets checked the cub's eyes, teeth, heart, and lungs, which wasn't without its challenges considering Xiao Li Yu, like most children, did not want to sit still for very long. The San Diego Zoo's giant pandas are on a research loan from the People's Republic of China. Xiao Li Yu is on display to the public at the zoo 2 hours every day. The Philippines is known for its beautiful resorts and challenging mountain steeps, but for people who seek a different kind of adventure, Pauay has something new to offer. Katrina Domingo takes a look.
If you have an appetite for some thrilling desert adventure, then no need for you to get a visa and hop on the next flight to the Middle East. Because here in the Philippines, we don't only have scenic beaches. Believe it or not, we have boasting rights to a desert-like landscape as well. Welcome to the Pauay Sand Dunes. In the heart of Pauay in Ilocos Norte lies 400 hectares of natural sand hills. The area used to be a barren land, but when the local government of Ilocos Norte sought the help of giant architecture firm Palafox to survey the vicinity, it was then that they saw the potential to turn it into an exciting tourist destination. Now, for only 2,500 pesos, vacationers are entitled to an hour-long fun in the sand. From the entrance, guests will first have to ride 4x4 off-road vehicles. Drivers who also serve as the area's tour guides will drive you around the terrain, where you'll get to enjoy an experience similar to riding a roller coaster.
Yung mga driver natin, mga professional na to, they undergo trainings, even first aid. May mga area kami na talagang dadaanan lang para hindi masira tong mga contour ng sand dunes.
After the drive down the dunes, guests are dropped off at a point where you can try sandboarding. Sandboarding only makes use of a flat board with straps to secure the feet. After the rider gets on the board, he or she will slide down a steep slope on a sand hill. Though the ride down may seem intimidating, it's really the climb back to the top that will wear you out. The Poway Sand Dunes is a rare sight in our country. That's why the administration of this government facility makes sure that they preserve and protect it well.
Ilocos Norte has very fragile eco-tourism sites, and as a result, I'm committed to not expanding to mass tourism. It has to be very, very light impact, low density tourism. Dahil places like Kapurpurawan, the White Rock in Burgos, places like the sand dunes are actually very fragile environmental phenomena, and they should be respected and protected.
Ang ginagawa namin, we educate people, lalong-lalo mga turista na huwag magkalat. Saka sa atin ito, yun ang ginagawa namin.
And because of the natural beauty and maintenance of the Poway Sand Dunes, tourists, both foreign and local, have nothing but praises for this place.
Sobrang ganda ng lugar. Hindi natin kailangan pumunta sa ibang lugar para ma-experience yung mga ganitong activities. Dito lang sa Ilocos meron na.
The Poway Sand Dunes management says that despite the current success they have in terms of tourist arrivals, they are still committed to improving the facilities and adding new attractions to this destination. They say they are looking at the possibility of putting an area for riding all-terrain motors and even camels, just to make the desert adventure experience more fun in the Philippines. Katrina Domingo, Solar News.
And that did look like fun. Well, Ben Affleck scoops up another directing award. That story and more in this entertainment wrap from Menchu Macapagal. Menchu?
Thank you, Nancy. Ben Affleck once again conquered Hollywood for winning the top honor at the Directors Guild of America over the weekend. Apparently, only the Academy snubbed the actor turned filmmaker after Affleck was not nominated for the Best Director award. Affleck still has a chance of winning the Oscars' top honor, though, as the Iranian historical drama Argo is nominated for Best Picture. Meantime, the Santa Barbara International Film Festival honored another Oscar nominee, this time Silver Linings Playbook star Jennifer Lawrence. The actress, whom director David Russell describes as touched by God, was named Outstanding Performer of the Year. In other news, the much-awaited Super Bowl wowed not just sports fanatics, but celebrity fans as well. Critics ruled out another lip-syncing controversy as Alicia Keys belted out a unique rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. Well, she was definitely a girl on fire. Kind of made me want to jump up and applaud as well. Now, controversial singer Beyonce did not disappoint as well as she reunites with all-girl group Destiny's Child. Kelly Rowland and Michelle Williams danced and sang with the award-winning artist to the tunes of Bootylicious, Independent Women, and Single Ladies. This was the trio's first public performance together since 2006.
Shouting out, baby. All the single ladies. All the single ladies. All the single ladies. All the single ladies. Up in the club, we just broke up. I'm doing my own little thing, sing, Kelly. Sing, Michelle.
Well, they said that her performance was so electrifying it actually caused that blackout. And that is the latest in entertainment. I'm Menchu Makapagal. I'll see you again tomorrow for more updates on your favorite celebrities. Back to you, Nancy.
Thanks, Menchu. Well, 9-year-old kid president Robbie Novak gives an inspiring pep talk in a new viral video. The clip, which garnered over 7 million viewers in less than 2 weeks, is dedicated to a child named Gabby who is battling cancer. YouTube channel Soul Pancake says the clip also serves as encouragement to anyone who is going through hard times. We're showing you the clip because, as the kid president says, it's everybody's duty to give the world a reason to dance.
This is life, people. You got air coming through your nose. You got heartbeat. That means it's time to do something. It's like that dude Journey said, don't stop believing unless you dream stupid. Keep going. Will Michael Jordan have quit? Well, he did quit. No, he retired. Yeah, yes, he retired. But before that, in high school, what if he quit when he didn't make the team? He would have never made Space Jam. And I love Space Jam. This is your time. This is my time. It's our time. We can make every day better for each other. If we're all on the same team, let's start acting like it. We got work to do. We can cry about it, or we can dance about it. This is life.
And let's check in on what is in store for us in Legal HD tonight. Lawyers Karen Jimeno and Rod Nepomuceno are on standby. Guys, I understand at the very least, landlords and tenants might want to tune in tonight.
Yes, definitely, Nancy. Our topic today should be interesting and relevant to a lot of people, especially those who rent properties or rent out properties. This would apply to those renting their houses, apartments, or commercial properties, and even to bed spacers or those who stay in dormitories.
That's right. Our guest for tonight is Attorney Ryan Esteves, and he's an FCLE lecturer, a Senate lawyer, and law professor. Should be interesting, Nancy.
Yeah. All right. Always very useful and practical discussions coming from you. Thanks. And that was your news nightly here on the Solar News Channel. Solar Sports Desk with Gino Rufino and Cheska Liton comes your way at 10:30. I'm Nancy Irlanda. Thank you for watching. Good night.